Hey guys, welcome back to this place, and if you are new, then welcome here for the very first time. I'm Carmen, and today we are going to watch Season 1, Episode 3 of Westworld. I have really liked getting into this show and trying to figure out what is going on and what people's motivations are and why they're doing the things that they're doing. So yeah, let's do more of that now. Alice in Wonderland.
Was I the same when I got up this morning? I almost think I can remember feeling a little different. But if I'm not the same, the next question is, who in the world am I?
Why would he want her to read these books that would cause her to think about things like changing? The gun? She doesn't remember why she has it.
Do you remember?
Why don't we reacquaint ourselves, Dolores? Start at the beginning.
I mean, you really don't have to. She remembers. Where did it go?
Don't know man shoot!
Like, literally, he's not even looking at you. Like, you could easily shoot him. He shouldn't have gone down, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, his friend.
Well, you've been preaching nonstop about all the narratives in the park, but all you've done since we've arrived is fuck and drinks.
I'm waiting for the good stuff. This bounty's JV shit.
Let's stay here. I want a little adventure.
He's a coward.
Who's saying that? Don't you talk to me that way. I can't hear you.
Do you see that?
Yeah, they deserve it.
He's talking to someone.
Yeah.
I need more milk, Arnold.
Who's Arnold?
Yeah.
He kills 6 hosts. He lets the other 3 go. I pulled the narrative logs. All 6 of these hosts were part of storylines over the years in which they killed Walter. It's like he was holding a grudge.
Weird.
It's a stray. QA needs a tag team to go track it.
Go. Do something that's actually in your job description.
Here. For your troubles.
I knew she was gonna remember that. I knew it.
What if I don't want to stay here? Just sometimes I feel like the world out there is calling me. Whispering there's something more.
Is that part of her story, or?
I've traveled all over these parts. Isn't there anywhere we could go?
There is a place where the mountains meet the sea. They say the water's so pure there it'll wash the past clean off you.
I'd like to go there with you.
Well, someday I'll take you.
Someday. You said someday. Not today or tomorrow or next week. Just someday. Someday sounds a lot like the thing people say when they actually mean never.
She's not wrong.
Let's not go someday. Let's go now.
Stay put, Dolores.
She's not staying put. That's really cool, though.
Do you know why it is a mystery, Teddy? Because we never actually bothered to give you one, just a formless guilt you will never atone for. Perhaps it is time you had a story of origin. It starts in a time of war, a world in flames, with a villain called Wyatt.
Okay.
Why?
So they're updating their story as it goes. Teaching her how to shoot?
First, you gotta learn how to stand.
Now take a breath, hold it,
Squeeze.
I can't.
It's not part of her story?
I think this may be the man you've been looking for quite some time. Man named Wyatt.
Promise me you'll come back.
I promise.
Shouldn't make promises you don't know if you can keep. I mean, he'll come back truly die, but
I'm gonna come back for you someday soon.
she doesn't like the word someday. Needs to purge it from his vocabulary.
But thanks to a new policy from your boss, only one of them is authorized to handle the axe. The rest of them can't even touch it.
Weapons privileges need to be doled out selectively.
Okay, so she doesn't have weapons privileges. It's like a constellation or a map or something. Oh my god. I mean, it was a mercy at that point.
Markings on its shell. Like stars.
Mm-hmm. Constellation.
Orion, right?
For 3 years, we lived here in the park, refining the host before a single guest set foot inside. Myself, a team of engineers, and my partner.
Who?
His name was Arnold. He wasn't interested in the appearance of intellect, of wit. He wanted the real thing.
Yeah.
He imagined it as a pyramid. Memory, improvisation, self-interest.
And at the top?
Never got that. You see, the guests enjoy power. They cannot indulge it in the outside world, so they come here. As for the hosts, the least we can do is make them forget.
But some of them are remembering, accessing fragments of Arnold's code.
Yeah. How?
If I may ask, what happened to him?
Yeah.
Well, he died
How?
here in the park.
How?
In his alienation, he saw something in them. He saw something that wasn't there.
I think it is.
Don Bernard, just don't forget, the hosts are not real. They're not conscious. You mustn't make Arnold's mistake.
Stop! Over here!
What's he doing? Dead.
Oh my fucking god!
That is probably the most relatable reaction.
We found a stray up here, and I don't think it got here by accident. It's as if he got an idea in his head, one that we never programmed. Get back to me, Bernard.
Bernard, you're gonna get yourself in trouble, and it's stressing me out.
I think it would be better if I restored you to the way you were before.
No.
You're saying I've changed?
Imagine there are two versions of yourself. One that feels these things and asks these questions, and one that's safe. Which would you rather be?
There aren't two versions of me. There's only one. And I think when I discover who I am, I'll be free.
Analysis. What prompted that response?
I don't know.
Dangerous.
Do you still want to change me back?
No, Dolores.
It's not what parents do.
Let's see where this path leads.
So he's 100% aware of what he's doing.
We'll go back up there in force as soon as they get here. But miss, if there is a merciful God, those men are dead already.
Is she gonna get out of her loop and try to find him? Girl, you're not supposed to do that. She's going by herself because he's not there.
All alone after Sunday. No one.
She's gonna protect herself.
Us this time.
Right. Come on, Dolores, you can do this.
Looks like your boyfriend taught you a thing or two.
Shoot him, if you can.
Why don't we reacquaint ourselves, Dolores?
Shoot.
Kill him.
Yeah.
Hey! Get back here.
She's remembering it from before. Oh, she's definitely out of her loop now. Oh no, he's gonna wake up or something, right?
Stop! Get the fuck away!
Hun, it's not working. Run. Dolores. Okay, so that was a really, really good episode as always. And there's a lot to talk about because we got a lot of answers that make us ask more questions again, of course. First thing first, let's talk about Bernard reading to Dolores. He has given her Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and he apparently keeps giving her books that he read with his son Charlie, which also happened to center around change, which is interesting if he doesn't want her to change. Why is he putting this idea into Dolores's head? You know, why is he allowing this thought or any thoughts to fester? It seems like Bernard feels the same way that Arnold did, right? And we'll get back to Arnold in a little bit because obviously I have a lot to say about that. But it seems like they kind of share the same mindset that some kind of sentient life could be forming from these androids, and that sentience should be fostered and evolved into a new life form. He kind of has taken what Ford said in the last episode, or 2 episodes ago, I can't remember which episode it was, but about all human life kind of came about by a mistake, yeah? And I think Bernard's view of it is these creatures, people, whatever, might not have been intended to be real or human or sentient or any of that stuff, but they have evolved into it, and we should allow for that variance and accept it, cultivate it, figure it out. Okay, because I feel like this is probably going to take the longest to talk about, let's talk about Walter, then circle around to Arnold. So Walter is the guy that was with the mustachy guy from Walking Dead, whose name is Simon on Walking Dead, and I cannot remember his name on here, so I'm going to call him Simon. Walter was the lieutenant, the second in command of that guy, right? And he's the one who, I think he got shut down or he got reprogrammed, something, but he went and he shot all the people in the saloon, and he was pouring the milk into Simon's mouth when they like shut everything down in the first or second episode, I can't remember which one. So he's that guy. And they found a video, Elsie did, of him talking to somebody that wasn't there, who he called Arnold, and then killing people who had something to do with his past storylines in which they hurt or killed him, which obviously indicates that some part of his consciousness, programming, whatever you want to call it, is remembering that these people hurt him and taking revenge upon these specific people, because he let the people who hadn't been involved with him in past storylines go. They also said that apparently Abernathy was talking to Arnold as well, which I don't think that they showed us in the first episode that he was in, but it's definitely an interesting thing. And then we found out in this episode that Arnold was Ford's partner, and they were creating the park and these androids for entertainment. You know, it's their business. And Arnold started to think of the androids, the hosts, as sentient, or as at least having the possibility of sentience, right? He wanted to create them in such a way that they would have memories of it, that they would be like real people that they would be like real people in pretty much every sense of the word, except for the fact that they would be androids. He had some kind of tower of consciousness that he called it, and I remember it was like memory, see, now I can't remember. It was like memory, choices, stuff like that. And then the last bit of the puzzle he hadn't solved, at least according to Ford. And he also believed in something called, hold on, I wrote it down, called the bicameral mind. And apparently that is when you think that, oh, what you doing? It's when you think that the inner voice in your head is God, which was apparently an early theory of how consciousness developed and something like that. So essentially what we found out was that Arnold, Ford's old partner, believed that, or desired to create the hosts as people in all but name. Like, he wanted to create people. He wanted them to be real, not just machines. And Ford said that he died. He had an accident in the park, although he doesn't think it was an accident. Like, it seems like Ford thinks that he killed himself, but they wrote it off as an accident and then deleted him from the history of the park, Westworld, right? I have two theories about Arnold, all right? Theory number one, he did not die. He did not kill himself, and is in fact the man in black that we keep seeing. I feel like that's the more ridiculous theory, honestly, but it's just a theory. My second theory for Arnold is that he did not kill himself, but somehow integrated his consciousness into the programming of the hosts at the park in the hopes that his sentience would somehow create that in them. If that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of my theory. He seems like Bernard to think that they're more than just hosts, they're more than machines, and they have the possibility of being real people, or as real as people who aren't people can be. A new life form, essentially. The most interesting thing about the Ford and Bernard conversation regarding Arnold is that I've sort of thought from the beginning that Ford regretted his part in this and maybe saw the hosts as more of a life form than the other people in the park seem to. But in both this scene and the scene where the guy had covered up the host, he sort of seemed to be really reiterating the fact that the hosts are just hosts. They're not real. They can't feel ashamed or cold or anything like that. They can't feel anything they're not programmed to, which we know for a fact, and so does Ford, is not actually correct, because they have exhibited both thoughts and feelings that they weren't programmed to necessarily. So maybe I'm being optimistic about Ford, but I kind of feel like he's trying to convince himself as much as he's trying to convince other people. Or he's trying to convince other people in order to throw suspicion off of himself when shit inevitably hits the fan. Because Ford's new storyline, okay, it's not new so much as expanding upon old. He gave Teddy an entire backstory, right? Before, Teddy hadn't had a backstory. It was mysterious because they just wanted him to have this feeling of needing redemption, and there was no actual care placed on creating a backstory that would require that. However, in Ford's new narrative, they give Teddy a backstory. They more fully flesh him out as a character, which is interesting because why does he need to be more fully fleshed out as a character? It doesn't really matter, right? I don't know. I'm on the fence about Ford. So let's get back to Dolores for a bit and talk about Bernard as well, because Dolores and Bernard, after Ford and Bernard had the conversation about they're not real, Bernard sort of went into, I don't know, the secret place where he talks with Dolores, and he was sort of becoming wishy-washy, right? He was like, I don't know if we should do this. This might not be the best option. You know, Ford brought up his son and made him think that he was projecting these feelings, and he had a talk with his wife or ex-wife. It's unclear. And he's clearly replacing some sort of parental feelings for his son with Dolores. But he went in there and he was unsure. And then he talked to Dolores, and she kind of assuaged his worries, right? She made him realize that she is evolving. She is changing into something new. and she's capable of thought and feeling and wanting things beyond her programming, beyond her storyline, beyond the loop that she was given to work within. And he decided not to stop with whatever he's doing with her, right? So that's really interesting. I am excited to learn more and to see more with this. Although Bernard told Dolores not to go with outside of her loop, because then that's gonna cause more problems and all that stuff. But Dolores went outside her loop. She used a gun, which I don't think she has weapon privileges like they talked about in the beginning, but she definitely went way outside of her loop, like miles beyond it. So I wonder what the repercussions of that are going to be, if people are going to find out. It kind of seems like they know everything that goes on in the park, so I guess we'll just have to see how that's going to go. They might be a bit distracted right now with the guy who bashed his head in with the rock. That was another weird thing. He left his loop and he went to this place, into this like hole, to look at the stars, kind of. And then when that guy was chopping his head off, he got out of there, and instead of trying to hurt Elsie, he bashed his head in with a rock. Is it because he realized his existence and he was like, take me out of this place? I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting question. And it's kind of like Ford sees it as a gift. This is kind of changed the subject, but this is what it reminds me of. Ford sees what they do as a gift, making the people forget what these shitty people do to them, which in a way it is, but also they're developing into, if not are already, people. So they deserve to know what has happened to them in their life, right? It's like the question that Bernard's wife or ex-wife posed to him when she's like, do you ever wish that you could forget? And he said no. And I agree, like, bad things suck, but all of your life experience combined together is what makes you who you are. So it's kind of necessary when forming who you are to know where you've been and what you've done and what's been done to you. Dolores also really hates the word someday. To be fair, I understand what she's saying with that, but also it's his programming, so I don't know. I believe that is all I have to say. So as always, let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And until next time, bye guys.